there's more context. Like, in other words, like, I can learn all this stuff from Joe, and to a degree, it's all correct, but there's no context behind it. It's almost like, because you have to experience it in real life situations, and sometimes some real life situations does not go with the information you're given. In fact, you may need the opposite. I said, so, you know, there's no one, and I think not, and that's not to say, like, I think everything Joe is sharing is great. I think now there's this other side of the process for anyone, because, you know, he was recalling how I told him about how to hit shots off hardpan, and he's like, and he remembers what I told him, and he's like, that sounds like what Joe's talking about now. And I said, yeah, like when I heard Joe explain it, I was like, I just never took the time to actually do the math and the science behind it. But when he described it and what he was sharing with me, I was like, oh, that's exactly what I feel and how I sense it. I said, I figured that out because I sucked at chipping off hardpan, off clay. And I said, I don't want to lose a shot. And then I figured out, oh, if I keep my head and chest forward and low point forward, I can just, like, the bounce will just get...
So off of this? That works?
Something like, yeah, like something like that. So...
But see, I guess I've never internalized that stuff. So what did you tell Josh? You keep your head and your chest forward?
Oh, I was just saying, like, I was like, yeah, which is just the same as, like, I'm keeping the low point forward, and then I just kind of, like, as I keep it forward, it's like, oh, I know I'll hit the ball and get the bounce through past the ball underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and to make that easier, it's like, oh, it's a lot easier when you're vertical than when you're too deep and shallow, and there's, like, a bit more vertical swing plane. So it's like all those factors are important.
It's just like, I'm way more comfortable hitting at 60, 70 yards, and so we've never really talked about, like, clock or position stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? Like, I don't really like
I'm
it
not
either.
a big clock person, to be honest.
I'm not either.
I just don't think it holds water, like, to, you know, but I think to a light degree there's a clock system, but it's like your own version of it, right? Like I know this swing always produces 50, so I know if I take some of these small factors into play, I can make it go 40 pretty easy.
That was the first one that came out. I felt like,
yeah,
like better contact.
okay.
How do you feel about like movement? Do you like to feel pretty, like those, all three of those I've tried to stay very still and like just keep like a glass of water on my head?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, it varies on the demand, right? Like, if I was on a super tight fairway, not balling.
That's what came out, like that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I think you have to make sure your low point's always touching the ground.
okay. And we do that by keeping this stuff
Just
up
a
here.
touch, yeah. Now, if you're like, I need to land a little softer, but I like that contact, well then it's like, okay, well let's start adding loft.
Okay.
Well, but go through it the same way. Same contact, same everything. There's your much softer landing, loftier 45.
And it comes out right because the face is open, or because I did something?
Well, it's a little bit due to your path and face angle, right? It's a combination.
That's okay. When I do that, every time I feel myself doing this with my knees.
Yeah, I think you try to help it not
dump
push.
and help every single time.
Just try to do less with your knees and let your chest bring it around. And we can move the ball up a touch. That was good. Tilted back a touch, but good miss. Yeah.
I tend to.
Try to stay forward. Let your chest finish forward. Better.
Mm-hmm. I think staying forward is the key.
Good. like those.
Mm-hmm. Can I hit that way?
Yeah, you can hit whatever way you want.
All right, see that brown dirt spot down there on the side of the hill?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay. What trajectory?
I mean, we got to do high because I'm not good at it.
Yeah. A little long, but overall pretty good.
Yeah, it's never a clock. It's just like a feeling of like how much force the ball needs to feel.
Yeah, because all these, if we're hitting off sandy, fluffy ground, I would need more force. If it was firm and tight, I would need less.
So, I think I already know the answer, but like, so when I go low and longer, that's gonna help it go higher.
Yes.
So if I want to go lower, I can go like this.
Yes.
Like that.
Correct.
But then my path looks
Well, look, it's not the path. It's just like, remember, as soon as we change a couple variables, start line will change. So it's like, I will stand more, like, so every time you change trajectories, the start line is going to change a subtle bit. So you have to get comfortable adjusting that variable too. Okay. Now if you go lower, more driving shot.
And okay, so is that happening too quick for you to see like what?
Well, I think you just rushed into it.
That's what, like, yeah. It always feels like I move too quick.
Yeah. You just jump to the next shot so quick, and you're going to change shot patterns quite drastically.
When I move slower, the low point moves back more.
So when you move slower, you have to be more conscious. Like let the sternum keep finishing, flowing forward. Like you almost want to control speed with your sternum speed. Especially when you're trying to hit like delicate, soft, like pitches and wedges. It's like my sternum and hand speed have to kind of match up or blend well. And I'm very conscious of like when I need that soft lander to like get my chest more involved. Starts feeling a little wider. Almost. A little rushed.
Slower.
Better. I just came out low spinner by chance off of that. Good though, I like the last one. Like, to me that one is like too much arms, so it's, and you're trying to slow down your chest, so then all of a sudden it's got to release too much. Like, go a little wider, less arms and elbows, kind of like folding. Yeah, just a touch wider. And then you want to feel like your clubhead and sternum are just constantly moving together, especially for these soft, wider shots. Better. Better miss.
So there's too much folding?
Yeah. What if you're going for the higher, softer shot?
When I try to do it like that, it just feels like I end up dragging.
Yeah. So let me change. Well, this is the higher, softer one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's change your setup too. You're still using Joe's setup for the low spinner.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go a little taller and wider from the ball.
Okay.
You don't have enough space for the width you need. That looks better. Because you're gonna maintain and work with a wider radius, so we have to have, like, set up for that wider radius, and that'll be easier to maintain. Good. You got more room to be, like, less perfect here. A little bit. Pretty good.
I wish that we had a little bit shorter target to go to.
Like 30 yards?
Yeah.
30 yards, you see this patch of sand right here?
Yeah.
It's probably a couple paces past that. That's probably close to 25. So I think it's got to land, I don't know, just 2 or 3 pieces longer at least.
See, that's it.
Too hot.
Too hot.
Yeah, but you're not setting up, like, remember, the constraints are like, you need more loft and more width here now, because you're not going to have the same ball speed. I'd even go a little more lofted and just a little more shaft, just a touch, something like that. Yeah.
And more of this? Or
No,
more of
somewhere neutral, somewhere in the middle.
Dude, it's definitely a great distance for me to work on.
So, let's go ahead and set up. You're good. I want that shaft length.
Okay.
Maintain that and that width. So it's almost like maintain the shape and work your trunk now. Better. More long. Good. Touch long, but relatively, right?
So what we're doing is just presetting everything?
Sort of. Like, you now, it's, think about it this way. You cannot use the same tactic unless, let me rephrase it. Out of this 30-yard shot, what are you really looking for?
It's such a hard question to answer. Just like the right vibe.
Okay. So, I mean, give me, like, okay, let me,
Like, I just want the ball to, like, wind up by the hole.
okay, fair enough. Okay, so, like, I think of it like a putting, right?
Okay.
Like, what I need you to, there's so much to take in, right? Like, in other words, it's not just flight. I care about the ball speed it lands and hits the green with. I care about the spin and the landing trajectory. These are all factors I would need to consider if I'm trying to get it close from 30 yards, right? And so, do I want the low spinner? Will it grab in time? No, unless the pin's further back and I have enough green. Because I'll get a long skip, and obviously the spin rate won't be as high as, like, from 50 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I need slower ball speed and a higher landing angle trajectory. So I need more loft, but I don't want to give up shaft lean because I don't want to lose low point forward. So I have to go, like, extra lofted, and now, so it feels like we're presetting impact, but it's also because we just don't have enough time to maneuver these things in a shorter swing. So now I've got the more loft, slightly more shaft length. It's all preset a little bit. Now I can move a little freer with the other body part.
Is the club gonna ideally move more vertically, or is it gonna be more?
It's gonna move slightly vertically, not as much as you have to. Overall, pretty good. Now, can you now going kind of based off? Can you feel that ball speed, the pace that comes off the face?
Yeah.
Can you make it come out slow?
Yeah.
Okay. What would you change other than because the last thing I want you to do is try to move slower.
I would try and nip it off this corner.
Okay. Let's keep it more basic. Let's just add more loft.
Okay.
But then the technique can be the same. Yeah, really good. Now that thing is going to land way slower and softer.
Okay. And it did. It went off the toe.
Yeah. I care almost more about ball speed than I do about the height.
Okay.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day,
And if it's too high, there needs to be more drop.
yeah. But like if that's your miss, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, too high could also be a factor of is the ball sitting a little fluffy on this long grass, and like, is it getting enough friction? All that other good
so
stuff.
if there's a tee, we put the tee here, right? Like
Yeah.
there, right? So, do I want this tee matching up with my? You don't have tape, do you?
I don't.
So I would want it like that, like I want this tee pointing down my start line.
Yeah, relatively. I
Right.
mean, remember the spin
So it's
loft or the face.
It's gonna be more left.
It's gonna be a little more left, yes. Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, like these feel much more like I'm just kind of.
Good. Touch. I'll talk to you about Thursday or Friday. You need those balls? You need the balls? I'll just get you balls next time. So I don't have to go back up. You can just leave them. Cross, yes?
Okay, so if I just wanted the club to go back to here, so we got to go like this. You know what I mean? It's like if I just do this.
You gotta think rotation too. Chest rotation.
So will you give me the what does that feel?
Oh, here. Just hold the club.
Okay.
It's just gonna feel like this. Tell your chest, there's no tilt back now, right? That's keeping the low point forward. Now you do that with a little arm lowering down, and everything should match up. Too much tilt. Try again. Take a practice together.
There's more speed.
Yeah. When you're too slow, it's easy to just back out of pace like this. It's like you want to feel a little that way. Yeah. Especially when I'm trying to get wider. I need more of that.
And why are we getting wider?
Wider is good when you're too short distance and you need softer flighted shots.
No, okay.
Because
But what about I'm gonna be not wide at all. Oh fuck. Normally I can do it really well. But my point is if I was gonna do that, I would do the opposite. I would stay like, you know what I mean?
but you are wider there.
I'm wide there.
You're wider than you realize.
Okay.
Your swing
It
so
feels-
long it has to fold. So your swing so long it has to fold up, but you're actually
Pretty wide.
you're pretty wide in the grand scheme. Now, when you don't move a lot and you overfold your arm because you're not turning your chest, it gets much narrower. But here you're turning your chest more.
Okay.
But it's a spectrum, right? It's like that would be one end. You're on the opposite end. Now find me somewhere in between. It's some variation of the two, right? So like to me, it would be like, so we're going for 20, 30 yards. Like this would be me trying to stay wide. But what it really feels like is I could put a stick between the face and my sternum, and they just feel like they're always, that stick's always there.
That's good. Okay.
So if I feel like I don't want to lose that stick.
That's
or
like the James Ridyard tool.
yeah, I guess I don't. I haven't seen that one, but I've seen him do a lot of interesting things. But like, in this, like,
it's like this. Like he basically like has like a thing attached here, and then it's like here.
Okay.
There's like a way to do it where it's like, and then it like holds the radius.
Okay, yeah.
Like once you set it, it'll tell you if you shorten.
So if you put me on firm, tight fairway, and you have a fast green, fast green, the low spinner doesn't work. It skips too far before it grabs, right?
I knew that was gonna
Yeah.
happen.
So then this is when the technique has to change. I can't do. So now Joe Mayo stuff, it goes out the door.
Out the door.
It doesn't hold water in this situation. Yeah.
Unless like the only way I could have played it is landing it on top of the hill and rolling it down.
You
there.
could have, and that's a viable option if it was that firm and fast. But then I would have been like, look, you just play it open, and you gotta learn to be wider and learn that okay, if that club and my chest match up, like it's gonna be like, will it have a lot of spin? No, but the landing angle is almost 90 now without flopping it, and it's going at such a slow pace. It has a chance of stopping now.
Yeah.
I'm no longer trying to stop it with spin. I actually need to try to stop it like I'm just dropping a ball straight down.
Brett Rumsfeld said he detests spin.
Well, that's because he's got such fast hands and he has so much spin. Everyone, the guy's still green on the opposite side, right? People who don't spin, I wish I could be like Brett Rumford. Brett Rumford only knows how to use his hands super high pace. It's like he only knows spin, and he's like, I'm like,
So
the idea is like you want the best of both worlds. You want to learn the full spectrum of things you need.
that yellow ball is just by itself.
Okay.
Really high socket. So like, because this face is so open, how can I ensure it's still gonna come out on this line? I have to swing along that line?
Yeah,
or like
path.
I have to
It's
feel
all
the
path
head.
reliant.
I have to feel the head traveling along that line.
Yeah, if anything, it's traveling just inside that line.
This way.
Yeah, ever so slightly.
Got it.
Well, no, like it looks inside to you, but if we had a laser sticking out, right, it's like it's inside, but the laser would still point here on that same line. So I always tell people it feels more inside than you realize, but it's technically, you're right. What you're saying is it's going to go right over that stick if the club, like right now it's pointing at the stick, right? Still point at the stick. Still point at the stick.
If the stick was going.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But visually it's
I knew
curving
that.
in.
I didn't know that.
If I don't change the radius and I move around the arc perfectly, it'll miss to the inside, but it'll still look like it's pointed at the stick.
See, so I'm still misunderstanding that. So like, if I take the club away this way versus this way, this is changing the radius.
Well, not
or it's changing
necessarily.
the arc.
A little bit. It's changing the sharpness of the arc.
Okay.
So when you want to see wider, go ahead, take it set up.
Yeah.
Turn your chest more, and you'll turn your hips a little more, right? It just feels like this more. Versus like over folding and everything, right?
Versus if I don't turn my, okay,
Then you'll have to narrow it up, right? That's like me trying to hit low spinners now.
with this chest.
Yeah. So you're moving the chest and the torso. Right.
Right.
That was good.
It's because I just need to be like showed the concepts in a way where my brain can be like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. But like right now, I just feel like it feels like I play my best golf is like if you threw a ball at me and I just catch it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like that. Like it's cool, but it's not. Like it just
You just want some comprehension
So-
behind it too.
just to understand what we're doing. Still on the line.
Yeah.
So that's what's confusing is it's like, but I think I understand. It's like the more loft there is, the less the face determines start line.
Yeah.
Correct?
So correct. So like look at it this way. Like it's the face vector it's no longer pointed outward. It's just pointed out. It's like a mirror. I can see my own reflection. Here, I can't see my own reflection. The mirror is just pointed out. So the face vector is just straight out there. Here, it's like, well, if I can see the face, if this was a mirror and I can see my face, well, then it has no more outward trajectory, right?
But you can go down this line by swinging the mass down that line.
Yeah, so now what really matters is the direction of the club mass force.
Okay.
Which is just path.
Okay.
Yeah, that will determine the direction, right? So if I swung more left,
Sorry. My fault.
but and then if I swung more into out, and if I don't chunk it, then it will go that way because it's just the force, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that flat object is no longer acting like a flat object,
Okay.
even though it is. Right, it goes back to that ping pong analogy, right? If my ping pong battle is like this and you throw a ball at it, it just skips whatever way you throw it. But if I had the ping pong paddle like this and you threw it at the paddle, well, depending on what angle I hold it.
Okay, explain that more. Like, because
Yeah, let me use.
I totally get what you're saying. Like, if this is the paddle, we throw it this way,
Yeah.
it's just going to deflect.
So you're the target, and
Yeah.
this I'm holding the ping pong paddle. If I hold it totally flat, fully lofted up, well, it doesn't matter what angle you throw it at me. It will never bounce back any. It'll just skip off and go in the same direction. Yeah. Now I make the loft 0, and I keep it square. If you throw it, it bounces back at you. What if I change it here? It goes that. Now, what if I add a little bit of loft? Yeah.
Right.
But the direction, it ends up not being perfectly 100% of the angle. It changes
it's like a
slowly.
deflection.
There's a little deflection going on, right? And then as I add more and more, well, the problem is there's diminishing value or diminishing return now, to a point of now the return is 0. There's 0 return, so we're just kind of flipping the end. So now, since the ball's not moving and you're only moving the club, there's no more return of the face angle in terms of imparting direction.
Okay.
So it's all path driven.
Okay. So it's almost like I have a little ping pong table or a paddle, either one.
Yes.
Like, this is the table. That's very interesting. Yeah. Who's gonna do it? Okay. How do I know when I'm? It doesn't. That's a dumb question.
It becomes a
It's a
feel
vibe.
thing.
Yeah. You can't. There's not. Okay. So the chances are I needed to have been wider on that shot.
Yeah.
And then
I think you thinned it, maybe in an attempt to help it up more, and you had the wrong pieces.
I was trying to hit a low shot.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Because it's almost like I in that moment I like took my medicine. I was like, well, this is what I've been. This is the shot that I know. But it's almost like my brain felt like this is not
right.
what it should be.
Yeah, and I think
And I kind of like.
I think there's something to be said about that, right? Because intuition slash the brain, the brain knows what it's doing, whether you try to override or not, right? It's like, so it becomes an issue of.
I think it's why golf is so frustrating for a lot of people because they're deep down. I think everyone's a pretty good golfer, but their body just doesn't cooperate most of the time.
Well, and there's the whole factor of like when you know you're doing the wrong play, it's kind of hard to be committed to do the play.
I do struggle to hit full shots with the 60 though. It's almost like I like it around the green, but outside of like 40 yards, I just go to my 56.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, as long as it provides the shots you need.
So I just need to like really, really focus on my shoulders more than anything for the next few weeks.
A little bit. I mean,
For
and,
approach wedges.
and this is the whole debate. Like, is Parker McLaughlin right? Yes.
Really?
In certain scenarios. Is Joe right? Yeah. In other scenarios. Do I think one's better than the other? No, I think you need both. They're both right. It just depends on the situation. And I think too, people forget, like when you're listening to Joe, this is a very generalized blanket issue he's talking about. Because like, no one on tour in your situation will hit the low spinner there, right? Like if they're in the exact same scenario, 44 yards, to a drop down fairway, pins up front with a slope, no one is going for the low spinner. So he's like, so then Joe's technique is like,
what's the difference between a low spinner and playing a low spinner into a fringe? You know what I mean? Where like
a bank shot kind of?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, is that a low spinner? They're just because
Not always. Depends on the bank. Depends how firm on that bank.
Because it's the same concept as ping pong.
Yeah. Like bank shots, I don't want too much spin sometimes because then it might not actually kick up there. But are there times where if you're playing on PGA Tour conditions and that fairway's super tight and firm, like, well, I might need a little insurance that this bank shot doesn't actually bounce and release too hard. Good.
So, dragging the handle is somewhat okay as a feeling for approach wedges if you're trying to slow down.
Yeah, and you're dragging the handle in 3 dimensions, right?
So you're dragging it, but you're dragging it up too.
Yeah,
not just
a gradual upward, right?
Okay. So that kind of helps me too. Like if I can understand where to send the handle, we've kind of talked about this before. Yeah, like for just like a normal approach wedge shot, like 50 yards. That handle, like at impact, it's not going to be like this. It's not going to be too far forward. So where do you like it?
It's forward and traveling up, and gradually losing shaft length, but not to the point where you have none.
Okay.
So when you think of like, I'm moving, my low point is shifted down forward, so my motion is to keep it down, to keep it forward, I actually have to raise up and through the shot, almost like a stack and tilt kind of feel.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so I think that makes enough sense. Like I think you gave me enough to practice. Like if we just go back to a high soft one that's like 45 yards. Not high enough, but
You'll miss it. Chest. It feels a little anti how you would hit the high shot. Almost. Does it just feel more like your right pec is finishing more forward, or? That was nice.
that one was the first one I felt like my right pec at all.
Like visually from here, not to say you have to feel these things, right? It's like, because I see the tilt back, so I just think, oh, like the sternum, or in this case, it would also be your right pec, just finishes more here, not
There you go.
That was the first one that felt good.
It's just yeah, it was crisp.
Like that one, yeah. Most of them feel kind of dumpy.
That's why I was like saying the high shot also might not feel the way you think. Because like to me, when I hit high shots, I still kind of feel like it's still attacking downward to a degree, right?
I mean, all of those are
That's good.
like good contact, but they're all pretty long.
So how much do you want to open this face now?
Okay, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same swing?
Yeah, same action.
Okay.
That was good. That's it.
It's okay, so the right pec is gonna be something I need to just think about.
You have to be aware that if I'm pivoting correct, the right pec will travel forward, right? You travel forward because it's just going around the spine in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, every one of these is at least decent. Because before I was thinking, I'm thinking about the handle in the club, but then I think in doing that, I'm leaving my body behind.
Yeah, it's just it's like everything you're thinking is correct. It's just there's a few more pieces I gotta move. It's just a little more complex.
Mm-hmm.
It's not difficult. It's just you just left part of the picture out of your feel.
Right at it. Going with the yellow ball.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Cool,
good off
dude.
the fin,
This is crazy how like they actually feel like more complete. I almost should, but
Good miss.
still. And if I want to hit it like Joe Mayo shot, it still is going to be. If I think about the right pack, it's still going to.
To a degree. It's different because the setup's so different, right? It's already kind of built in there easier. But I think for you, since you have a tendency to drop your chest back, it's probably not a bad thing to be aware of in general.
Nice.
And that's something else I've found is I struggle less off of just hitting it off of this as I'm getting steeper.
Yeah.
Let's talk about driver for a second. How much time do you have?
So you're good till like 3:30, I think.
Assuming they're on that.
Yeah. Never know. Or should we? You know what I mean? Like, should I just go get fit for a driver and see where I'm at?
I mean,
Basically, the other thing is I don't.
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. Is there a hot melt in this?
Heavy.
Heavy.
Toe. Maybe not heavy. Mike's done it a lot.
I would just.
I've had this one for like 5 years.
It probably wouldn't hurt to just start fresh. And I think you're swinging way better than 5 years ago. I think your swing's it's transformed a lot for the better. Where it's almost like this club should not work in the same way it did for you back then. Since you had
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. It's like, all right. Well, okay. So then I'm gonna talk out my process, and I mean, I really need to remember this building. Like, really, it's kind of a perfect target for driver. It's
not the right
the
width.
right width, that distance. All right, I'm just gonna go just straight up. This is it. know, and it's like, I'll do that
Yeah.
for 6 holes, and then I'll hit really off there for some reason. That's when I'm like, what is happening? You can't, I'm not.
It's hard to say because like you just gotta see it.
I don't know what I do. It's my problem. It's like I couldn't tell you what to do to do that. I just think about it and do it. It's like,
Which isn't a bad thing.
no, it's not a bad thing.
I mean, what are your swing thoughts going into that shot? Maybe you just need to identify it.
My thought is like just a balloon floating in the air. Like I don't know. Like I guess okay. So let's try and talk about it. 2 things that I've noticed for some reason that help me is this weird, long, flowy rehearsal swing that I do. So I'll step in, and I'll go like this, and I'll go like that. And like when I do that, it like lets me set my weight well. And maybe I just forget to do that on my bad swings or something.
You might. I don't know. Yeah, that's the
That's
thing.
what I'm saying. I don't know because it's like I can do that.
Well, you might have to just make sure you're focused on your process of how you go about it.
Right. And so then my feeling is stay centered and vertical forces more than anything. So I kind of try and stay centered and then just like jump.
Okay.
Kind of. But I never get off the ground because I'm not strong enough. Yeah, it's like there's just too much variability in what I do.
Is that closed face or is that a little toey?
Close face and toe.
You were aiming more left on that one, so it wasn't actually that bad of a. It was a pull. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I ran into somebody who knows you.
Oh yeah.
Gage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I ran into him. Now, and then this is another like interesting thing that I noticed yesterday. So the last 2 days, and when I'm playing well, that kind of a double cross comes out where it's like a little diving pull, but it's always playable.
Yeah.
I didn't double cross myself like that once yesterday, which makes me feel like I'm hanging on.
You could be. You could
Under
be
pressure.
guidey a little bit, for sure.
That was just something I noticed, like thinking about all my tee shots.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good thing to point out and look into, right? Because like, if you know when you play for fun, more relaxed. You have one of your good misses is a double cross, but then yesterday it's like, man, no, there's no double cross. It was more of a big block fade kind of miss. It'd be
So
good
then-
to analyze like, why do I have a double cross miss that I like, and then none of it existed yesterday.
If I hit those 2 tee shots in a row and round, I would, for my next one, I would step in with the ball in the middle of my stance, and I would deliberately like play it more in the middle.
Okay.
And that's my only adjustment. And watch, this will probably come out low. See, and then there it is. It's like,
It's too severe.
yeah,
I don't think you want to change ball positions that much.
heard.
Yeah. But, okay, let's say you have 2 misses in a row to the left. Don't change anything, but like, okay, what if this one you just like,
I think that's what it was, is because I missed that 3 with left, I probably put it back in my stance.
so this one you keep the same. I think too, like at some point at a high level golf, like the nuances are tinier and you just gotta like,
Send it.
yeah, and know you can feel that subtlety, right? It's like, all right, I'm just gonna send it and just hold it off a touch. Nothing like, essentially that miss is like, oh, like 2 degrees of change, right? Like if we put numbers on things, right?
Okay, so then another thing that bothers me about myself is that I can very comfortably, like, okay, it needs to go there, but I can't do this through it. It doesn't feel the same.
Well, it's just a rehearsal. It's like, is that really what you're doing and when you really swing it? No.
No.
I think that's kind of part of it is there's a internal sensation that you can internalize, but that's not literally what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to start these over that little this thingy.
Okay.
So that's kind of like my routine currently is like I'd spot that spot. I'm just like looking at it.
Yeah.
And then I pretty much just try and like align the face with it.
Okay.
And then I step my body in.
Okay.
But then sometimes I'll look back down and the face, all of a sudden it's like the face will look like it's pointing that way. And then I'll have to like step out.
What if you don't try to align the face directly so much?
Yeah.
And just try to align your body square with that object?
Okay.
That looks a lot better. Then off the heel.
Yeah.
The one before, whether you're conscious or unconscious of this, you put the face down. The face looked okay, but then you stood way close.
Close.
Right? And then
I
that
know.
might have been why you all of a sudden shut the face more. You're like, I need this face to stay left.
Every round I record, I see that in myself. I'll start seeing myself like closing. And then what happens is then I reroute it, because that's kind of my pattern, is like hanging back. And like, look, then it like kind of brings me back this way.
Yeah. So
It's like closing and hanging.
you kind of introduce and return the pattern anyways. When you may have to just be more careful. Then part of what sends that row away right ball could be too severe of misalignment, like getting too closed off.
Mm-hmm.
Like that last one looked very similar to the very first one you aimed, like more towards the middle and everything was a little more. Yeah, like I like this much better. This one last swing, yeah.
Against my double cross, and it's like it works.
Yeah, I mean that's never gonna hurt you
No.
unless you just can't miss left at all.
No. But that's what I'm saying. It's like I never get a diver until I gotta hit this fucking club.
Well, I think gotta go.
Yeah, no, I completely. It's like this just isn't right for me, and that's kind of where I'm at. It's like it's brutal.
Things just sledgehammer.
So, with that square thing in mind for a draw, do you do anything different? Just the ball a little more back in your stance.
For a wood,
Yeah.
I actually just drop my right foot back a touch, so I
Okay.
do close it a little.
Okay. Can you hit it right now? Okay, what about like the other whole thing for me is that these shafts are difficult to draw as well. But I don't know, like, I don't know if I'm hitting my irons well enough that it matters or not. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
it never feels like a problem. What's interesting also is I feel like I'm gonna hit this.
You might.
Which is
Yeah,
crazy.
it was close enough to your wheelhouse.
Okay. But here, let me talk about it. So what happened is one of the holes I tripled yesterday was okay. Like a month and a half ago, I was on the range and I was seeing myself taking the club too far inside.
Uh-huh.
So I felt the club go down and out.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, it's like I actually, when I do it right, it puts the club in a really good spot. But at the same time, it moves the low point back when I do it.
Chunk it?
Yeah, so I chunked one, just like it's par 3, and I just chunked it into the water.
Okay.
It was the first and only time I thought about that during the day.
So you thinking about it?
That's me thinking about it.
Okay. No, so you not thinking about it. Now, were you hitting the irons pretty good until you thought about it yesterday?
Yeah.
I think that's one of those, like, why did you feel compelled to do it all of a sudden?
Because I was 6 over, and I was like.
But you didn't hit bad iron shots, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. I know. That's right. It's mentally, and that's like I need to talk about it with you to be like, yeah, you're right. That's so stupid.
Nah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just trying to understand you better.
That's what I'm trying. That's why I play golf.
Yeah.
I just don't understand myself.
John, saved you some balls.
You know, you're 6 over for other reasons, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But, you know, I can understand, too, like, things spiral out of control. Like, it's easier being on the outside and after the round to, like, think clearly. But, like, during the actual moment of spiraling things out, I mean, that's kind of why people have caddies, right? Like, someone to, like, be the voice of reason and pull you back into things. It's not as easy as it seems. But, you know, you don't have the luxury of a caddy, but then that's also, like, but what you can do is now, like, start reflecting back and kind of, like, recognizing certain patterns of habit out of yourself.
No, the blue one behind it.
It's a 6.
Pretty straight. Good miss.
Yeah, no, like that's what I'm saying is like since I got fit into these clubs, my irons are pretty straight, but it's almost like hard to shape them. Like I'll try and hit a big cut. It's like I don't know if it's me, and it obviously is, but I just can't. It's like I can't shape these clubs, so I just play straight balls. I don't know
Not
if
a
that's
terrible
the
thing.
same. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I've never liked shaping it much.
I don't think shaving's overrated. Like, I mean, I think it's needed, but like,
To get under a tree.
yeah, and like also like if you need a cut, like you don't need to cut it like 10 yards. You just need to like pin something cut right.
What to do. That's the big thing.
Like that's a classic miss. Little thin and it just cuts right at the pin.
Yeah, I'd take that any day of the week.
And that's my miss.
Yeah.
A lot. I actually almost had an albatross yesterday. I hit the pin from like 215.
Nice. Might be a broken ball. It's diving.
It was too easy picking. Like I got way more blackberries than we have any business.
Were you like the only one there?
I was the only person there. I was in some guy's backyard.
That's so cool.
Gave me a bunch of peaches too.
Nice. Blackberry season just started.
Oh. I always forget there's a bunch of the like
There's
berry farms around here.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. So, where are we at on ours? You're happy with the flight on them?
I mean,
They don't seem like a problem, but at the same time, like what's hard, I don't know, what's super hard for me is knockdowns. It's like, every time I try and slow it down, I just end up like dumping and hitting the ground early. Like, where would we, let's go to the blue.
okay. Well, you never take that much speed off of 6.
Okay.
if you like, that's hard not to dump.
Okay.
There's a certain point of like, too slow is too hard to work with.
So let's go to the bottom of the hill of the yellow flag.
Okay.
So it's just a little bit of a takedown. Well, that was the first one I ever did. The feeling was more of a draw there. Like, for some reason, it's easier to conceivably hit a knockdown draw than a knockdown cut.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Why?
'Cause the lower you hit, it pulls in more draw components.
Okay.
So the hardest shot to hit is a low cut.
Okay. And to hit a low cut, what do we do?
You just try to avoid it if you have to. But then you'd have to really hold it off and curve the hand path left, right?
Okay, so then that brings it in, like, because my shape a lot of times is a cut, if I have to go under a tree, I'll end up like going too, I'll dig too much, and it feels like I lose this angle so quick. It feels like I can't really ever hit knockdowns with any compression. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so if you're under a tree,
Like that, like I never have that feeling with the knockdown. There's compression there.
yeah.
It
Well, then
always
what's the
feel-
difference between now and when you're under a tree?
It always feels more like I don't know, like I lose the angle. But if I try and keep the angle with the knockdown, it's always a big pull.
You might be, so you're smothering it. Then.
Yeah, I'm smothering.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
exactly
then
what I'm doing.
that's like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's like it
I'd
feels
have
like-
to see you in the moment, right? Because that's like,
For me to do it, I would have to like hit it like that.
I think you're just trying to over-insure going low, and then you end up smothering it. That was good,
Yeah, I don't feel like I have that shot in my bag.
but you do have it. So again, I think that becomes like a. We'd have to see you in the exact environment, yeah. Because if you're getting guidey and trying to force it, well then you'll just smother it, probably.
So it's like I don't really understand what is the engine when you're like hitting a shorter swing like that.
It's not trying to do this. It's
Yeah.
like I've built it in my setup, and now I can just keep moving, right?
Okay.
So like if you have the ball back and your hands are already more forward, do I need to hit more down? No, it's like you just you keep the low point forward and keep moving.
Okay.
I think that goes back to like kind of like you treat it like chipping, right? Like Joe's information.
I was
right?
gonna say, is it's kind of similar to
It
that?
is, yeah.
Kind of a more vertical swing plane.
A
kind of
little
thing?
bit, and it's already built in, right? So you don't need to keep driving the hands more forward. I think you're just a little too low.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With my hands.
No, at address with your body,
Okay.
like. Good. Pull it.
It's almost like easier to practice these if we go on the course and like sit under a
Yeah,
tree.
yeah, it would be. There's not enough here to like, kind of force the.
But I guess what we're getting at is it's more of an Indian than an arrow issue.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
struggle
In
to hit
terms of the
knockdowns.
punch shot,
It's not
yeah.
really that my clubs are too anything.
You would notice it more on your fuller shot than the low shot.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems like I have always struggled to take spin off of it.
That was good.
Yeah.
Now, if you need it lower, it's like, well, you gotta play that further back, not try to smother it more. So yeah, you move another ball back.
So then if we build the box,
Yeah.
like if we're putting it back in the stance, am I gonna have to go this way?
Slightly,
Or
yeah.
this way?
The other
More
way,
this
yeah.
way.
Ever so, yeah. Not that
Okay.
much.
Right, like there.
Hmm.
And then, but so if I go, it feels to me like it's gonna cut.
It just feels that way. Because really, you have to be careful of it not hooking too
That's
much.
crazy. Okay, no, I feel like if I go back and through this line, I'm gonna cut it at that tree on the right of the hill.
I mean, you could cut it. I think the idea is like, every time I put the ball back, I introduce more into out and more down, right? Those are all draw components. So you are trying to offset some of it.
Yeah.
Now, if you got room to like sling it around and low, and you want to like roll left, that's a different story. Then you wouldn't have to hold it off as much.
So I want to hit this as like a low draw at that yellow pin.
Okay.
And this is like exactly like something I don't even feel like I.
Yeah, but what's gonna make it draw now?
Exactly, I don't know. I mean, my understanding is the face to path relationship.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to influence the path in a healthy, safe way. It feels like very manufactured.
Like, just if you put it back and I said just hit it solid, could you hit it solid? I mean, it's close enough. What I'm saying is like you're not gonna chunk it or like.
Okay.
Now, if you need the low draw, it's like, all right, well, let's hood the face a little at address.
Okay.
Too much, a little less, and then just give me the same shot.
Okay.
Let's try to sling.
Yeah.
I think you're mistaking that, like, when you start shifting to the I shouldn't say extreme. It kind of goes back to like the wedges, right? There's a point of like diminishing returns, right? Like if you need to curve it, you're gonna take care of it more at address and start changing factors at address, not. But you keep trying to change the actual swing and trying to go
That's
against
me
the
just being
grain.
an athlete, I'm just like trying to.
Yeah, you're
it
trying
on
to
the
defy
fly.
physics a little bit here, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you're not using it in your favor. Like I already have in-out path built in when I put it that far back,
Okay.
but I just need a little more hooded face to get to really sweep over.
So I should still feel like it's going to be a cut.
You just make your normal swing. Yeah, don't overthink it. Just hit it flush.
And then I'll drop.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because remember the
See,
same
that was a cut for
the same swing you have. If I move the ball back,
changes the.
it changes the path regardless. Even though you have a cut path by nature, it's less cut from back there.
Dude, okay. See, I think this is where I need to go with it. Still gonna feel. See, my brain feels like that's what's gonna happen. Is a block.
Yeah, but that's why it's like you have to change the face at address
Gotcha.
before you pull the trigger.
Gotcha.
Because if you don't, then yeah, you might have
It
that
might be a
block.
block.
Yeah.
And how do I know that I'm adjusting the face properly?
You gotta, now it's trial and error, right?
Gotcha.
You gotta develop a sense and feel for it. There's no like exact formula to give you.
Okay.
But if it's, like, as long as you're like, well, that face is relatively closed for you, and I make the same swing motion, I should get a draw out of it. Right.
But it's. I haven't gotten a single one to draw back on the line. Like I said, like I have this rod pointing at that yellow flag, but I can't seem to get him to curve back to the flag.
So how much curve are we looking for? Like, where do you want to see this thing start?
I would want to see it start probably like there's the triangle on the left side of the triangle.
Okay.
The left angle of the triangle.
Staying close, rotating is the hard part for me. I don't care if I just hit an 7 iron 130. I don't need to hit it 180. That's why I got a hyper.
I would say that it's drawing. I think that's a broken ball.
Okay.
But I think that one was pretty good.
Okay.
I think the idea is like all the shots you had just hit the last 3 or 4. They all had hints of draws trying to turn over. It's like now fine tuning it a little bit. Right. Like they're not exactly what you're looking for. I think the last one probably would have drew enough had it been a decent ball with some dimples. But like the one before that started further right, it still drew, but it obviously started more right. And like, I mean, that's what you have to be careful is like, if I move it back, it wants to start more right. I'll get more draw pattern in there, but now you have to develop a sense of feel now for changing the face a bit more to get like, and it depends how much curve you really want. Because if you're looking to draw it, but you're really looking for a small curve, like you actually may have to aim right, make your normal swing, normal ball position, and just close the face a bit at address.
Cool.
You know, so you get, because you have a predictable path one way, I don't, it's like not sensible to say, hey, if my path is always -2 and I always produce a tiny cut, to all of a sudden shift it 4 degrees and out. That's a 6-degree shift, right? Of like, it's not a normal thing to practice and have a good sense of. But what I could do instead, I could just aim more right, keep the -2 path in relation to me, and just hood the face a little bit, and now I'll have a little pull draw pattern. But it shouldn't over curve, it's just more predictable.
Okay.
Like your bow is different than my bow, even though we're shooting the same arrow. So how you utilize your bow would be different than my bow. You know, because I have more draw, I'm more naturally in to out, and I play more draw off my stock shot. So when I have to hit a cut, if I need a big cut, I have to go to the extreme for me. But if I want a small cut, I'll actually just move the ball up so it's easier to swing left, and I'll just hold the face a little open, and I can get a small bleeder. But I'll have to change the way I aim to make it work. But that is a less invasive movement pattern change for me.
Okay.
I think that's kind of what you kind of like you're fighting is you feel like you have to go the extreme to make a curve another way, and it's too invasive. It's too different of a swing. So it's like, how do I make the same swing work and manipulate the ball flight? There's a lot of other factors you should go to first before you go to